You're watching CBS Sports HQ presented by Panasonic. We are at the end of week 2 of NFL free agency, and NFL writer Cody Benjamin is given a grade to each NFL team with moves that have already been made. Topping the list are the Lions, who went after the trio of physical corners in Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Right behind them, the Jets, who have yet to finish that Aaron Rodgers trade, but they get a top grade for adding the pieces Rodgers is reportedly requesting. Dolphins get a B for trading for Jalen Ramsey, and all the way down the list, the Ravens, finishing 32nd overall and the only team that gets an F grade for, of course, what is going on with quarterback Lamar Jackson. NFL analysts and former players Brady Quinn and Douzable are here to discuss some of these moves and other stories of note. Let's start at the top, since we're talking about Lamar Jackson. He's the only one that can negotiate for him, just in case you guys hadn't heard. With all the quarterback-needy teams out there, though, I mean, is anyone going to submit a bid for him, Brady?
It doesn't appear so. You would have thought they already had done so by now. And now I think you've got a lot of teams who may be waiting until the draft to see what they get out of the draft before they maybe submit that offer sheet. But I think a lot of people are watching what's happening between Lamar Jackson and really whether it's the NFLPA or a friend of his that's not certified as an agent with the NFLPA who's now trying to do these backdoor deals. I mean, this whole thing's become an absolute disaster. And it's a stain, I think, not only for the players union, which at one point was helping Lamar Jackson, consulting in all of this. And now maybe Lamar Jackson's even frustrated with the NFLPA at this point and some of their consultation, which is why he's gone to one of his buddies who's not certified as an agent. So the whole entire thing's a mess. I don't know that any teams are looking at him right now with the fact that he hasn't finished the past 2 seasons healthy. He hasn't been able to replicate that MVP season we saw a few years ago. And now all this drama that goes along with it and a fully guaranteed deal to surpass Deshaun Watson, it seems like it's all too much. And so I don't know that we're going to see another team provide an offer sheet and want to bring on this baggage, even as good as Lamar Jackson is as a former MVP.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Brady. I don't think a team puts in an offer. And to your point, it's interesting, right? He's only 26 years old, former MVP. And when he has been healthy, because he has been banged up the last 2 years, the Ravens have potentially been in the number 1 spot in the AFC when he's been healthy. Well, the Ravens decided, you know what, Lamar, we're going to let you see what your market is, because there was rumors that he potentially could want a fully guaranteed deal like Deshaun Watson. I think now we're seeing that is a true outlier and teams aren't going to do that. I think one thing to watch going forward, though, is, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow. They're, available and able to get extensions right now. We'll see what type of deals they get. But the Ravens are like, well, Lamar, we're going to put the non-exclusive tag on you. Teams can bid for you and do our dirty work for us, and then we can match it. So I think right now teams are saying, well, we're not going to do the Ravens any favor and do their dirty work. I thought maybe the Jets would maybe make a call, especially with the Aaron Rodgers deal not getting done by the start of the new league year. But that didn't happen. But going forward, I don't see a team coming out of the woodworks and deciding to put an offer in for Lamar Jackson. I think he's either playing for the Ravens next year on that non-exclusive tag, or he's going to hold out. I think those are his only options right now.
All right, so we're waiting on Lamar Jackson. We're also waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Leger, you pointed it out there. Between the Jets and the Packers, we're trying to figure out what's going on here and how come the trigger hasn't been pulled yet. When are we going to see a deal between these two, Leger?
Yeah, Jeremy, potentially we could see one next week. We know the league meetings are happening in Arizona. I believe they start Sunday. I think this is a situation where you get the owner of Woody Johnson for the Jets, GM Joe Douglas for the Jets. You get Mark Murphy, the president for the Packers, and then Brian Gutekunst. They all get in a room and try to hammer this thing out. And if it doesn't happen then, I think it happens right before the draft, because if you look at the Packers, right, you would think they'd want to use some of that draft compensation that they could potentially get from the New York Jets in a trade to use this year. They also have a decision to make on their current quarterback, Jordan Love, right? They have to decide, are we going to give him the 5th-year option? And then right now, it's kind of a stalemate because Aaron Rodgers' number is so high, it's hard for them to add pieces on that team now. So you hope that they would try to get this done before the draft so they could use some of those draft picks to really fill out that roster and truly evaluate Jordan Love to see if he could be the quarterback of the future. So I think it's going to either get done next week at the league meetings, and if not, it could potentially get done right before the draft. But something to watch, right? June 1st, potentially, if Aaron Rodgers had retired, his cap number would have been $40 million for the Packers, but after June 1st, they can really allot that money throughout the rest of the seasons. I don't think it goes that far because the Packers, again, they want to be able to use some of that draft capital this year. But I think something gets either done at the league meetings coming up this week or right before the draft.
Okay, this may sound crazy, but Brady, is there a scenario where Rodgers does not leave Green Bay?
No. I mean, you've heard Mark Murphy basically say, unless this entire plan falls apart, and I don't think it's going to. I think in part because the Packers want to move on. I mean, Mark Murphy wouldn't come out and say that unless he was going to try to find a way to make this work. But Leger just touched on it. It really comes down to compensation for this trade. And I'm with Leger in thinking that this can't go past the draft. And in part because of they got to take a look at Jordan Love. But the problem right now is the Jets, from what I'm hearing. It's the Jets aren't willing to part ways with the 13th overall pick in this year's draft. Are you kidding me? For Aaron Rodgers? I mean, this is a team that's basically a quarterback away from being able to make a playoff run. So go ahead, chalk up that 13th overall pick, throw in some other compensation, and let's go. Let's see what this Jets team is capable of with a real quarterback at play here. So I don't think there's any realistic scenario where Rodgers comes back and plays for the Packers. I think in that scenario, the hypothetical you threw out there, he probably just retire. But I think now he's really motivated, given that Mark Murphy and the Packers front office seemed to tell him one thing before he went into the darkness, and then when he came out, something else was going on behind his back.
Brady, you're willing to give up the 13th pick for a guy that's 39 years old who said when he was going into doctors, he was 90% sure he was walking away from the game? The number 13 overall pick?
Yes.
Are you serious?
He's not going there for just a year. He's going there for 2 or 3. And if you're a Jets fan, that's the thing. We never know. That's a quarterback away. All right. So, hey, I know you're so close with the Jets. Guess what? Someone tried to tell you about the quarterback issues you had a little bit last year, but someone didn't want to listen on this side of the screen. So go ahead, get Aaron Rodgers, get it over with. You still have the rest of the draft to make good picks like you have in the past. So go ahead, give him the 13th pick. Just go ahead and make this thing happen so we can get on to see if the Jets
high pick. That's a high pick, man. I don't think Joe Douglas is ever going to do that.
Okay.
Tell me this much then. Hold on. Tell me this much. If that pick's so valuable, who are you getting that's going to change the roster and the Jets' chances this year of winning a Super Bowl? Who are you getting with the 13th overall pick?
They're getting an offensive lineman. Did you not see what happened to the offensive line for the Jets last year?
That's going to help them more than if they got Aaron Rodgers with that pick. First off,
obviously not. We're all assuming that Aaron Rodgers is coming.
He looks great. You got Dwayne Brown coming back as well. You can find good linemen that can start in latter portions of the draft. If you're trying to tell me that you're going to find a lineman that's going to help you guys get the Super Bowl this year, okay, good luck with that strategy.
No, I think everybody's assuming that the deal would get done. I just think 13th is kind of high to take on a quarterback who potentially was going to retire until he was pissed off by the Green Bay Packers.
Okay, so
I'd want him motivated. If it's me, I'd want him to be motivated. I'm glad the Packers went ahead and ticked him off. Guess what happened the last time they did that? He went back-to-back MVPs.
Back-to-back MVPs. I hear you.
Okay, so let's say the deal gets done. Let's say that Rodgers becomes the quarterback of the New York Jets. Do the Jets automatically become the favorite in the AFC East?
In my opinion, that's who I'm putting my money on. Now, I think the Bills will still be the betting favorite, but I would put my money on the Jets at that point. I think you've got the value. I think you've got a lot of the pieces there that can win. It's familiarity with an offense with Nathaniel Hackett. So I think this transition looks a little similar to when Peyton went to the Denver Broncos and brought his offense along with him. They didn't try to make Peyton Manning learn a new offense. Aaron Rodgers is going to know the system from day one. He's going to have familiar targets. You got Allen Lazard there now. You're probably going to see Randall Cobb eventually make his way onto this roster. And not to mention maybe Odell Beckham, maybe some other guys who he's put on his wish list that also he's throwing with and preparing with in the offseason. So again, right now, plus 180, I'll go ahead and take that number. I think as he signs, that number probably gets bet down a little bit, but the Bills are still going to be the favorite of the public.
It surprises me to hear you say that, Brady Quinn. It actually makes me nervous for my Jets going forward. And it hurts me to say this.
Sure why.
I'm actually going.
I called what happened last year.
I'm going plus 375 with the Miami Dolphins. I mean, let's not forget when Tua Tagovailoa was healthy, this was one of the most explosive offenses in all of football, right? Now it's contingent on him being healthy, which I know is a big ask because he hasn't really been healthy. But let's not also forget what they did on the defensive side. They brought in one of the top corners in all of football, and that's really struggled opposite of Xavier Howard, right? Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. And another caveat, Vic Fangio, he is a defensive genius. He is multiple on defense. He will move Jalen Ramsey around. I think you'll see an uptick in Bradley Chubb. And I know this is an explosive offense, but two signings that happened for the Miami Dolphins this offseason that people aren't nearly talking about enough is their two running backs, bringing back Jeff Wilson and also Raheem Mostert. Let's not forget, combined, these two ran for over 1,700 yards. Yeah, everybody talks about the explosion on the outside with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. But let's not forget, when the Miami Dolphins played Buffalo Bills up there in Buffalo during the regular season, that second game, Raheem Mostert had a field day with them. And also with Skylar Thompson, their third-string quarterback. They were just a couple plays away of beating the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo with multiple players being hurt. So to me, what they've done on the defensive side, adding Jalen Ramsey, Vic Fangio, I think Bradley Chubb sees an uptick. I think if Tua Tagovailoa can stay healthy, don't kill me, Jet Nation. I think right now the favorites in the AFC East have to be the Miami Dolphins.
That's a big if, though, if Tua can stay healthy, but I can't disagree with you. Plus 375, that's a little bit of disrespect for the Dolphins based on the way that they look. That's certainly what they've added. All right, we're running out of time, but wanted to get to this. Pete Prisco did his first mock draft this week. He's got 4 quarterbacks going with the top 5 picks. He says any one of these QBs could go first overall. So, Brady, you're the Panthers general manager. Who are you taking today?
If it's me, I'm taking Bryce Young, but that doesn't seem to be where things are leading. And, you know, not only from a betting standpoint where C.J. Stroud after the combine became the betting favorite, but also after the pro day. You saw C.J. Stroud ball out. Josh McCown had some words for him. But to me, I think Bryce Young really inhibits all the things you're looking for at the next level. People are just concerned about his durability and size, but I think he's a quick processor, a great decision maker. He'll be able to step in day one and be a starter. He's just got that sort of football IQ. But it's Stroud, the one that also is right there nipping at his heels behind him. He's probably the most accurate. He's got a strong arm, no concerns about the size, and he showed off some of the athleticism. And again, going back to the comments of the pro day, Josh McCown makes a comment in regards to, hey, one day when you're coming down to Charlotte, maybe we can play a little one-on-one or horse or something like that. So Josh McCown's a pretty honest dude. I don't know that he'd make a comment to a prospect unless that was legitimate, and he felt like that was going to be the direction that this team is going to go.
Yeah, Brady, I think it's going to be C.J. Stroud, and you alluded to what Josh McCown said. Now, was that some gamesmanship? Was he talking about a top 30 visit? They come and play one-on-one? I don't think so. I think C.J. Stroud is going to be the guy for the Carolina Panthers. And if you look at Frank Wright in his history, right, the quarterbacks that he's had, talk about Phillip Rivers, Andrew Luck, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Jacoby Brissett, all of these guys were over 6'3", and that's what, you know, C.J. Stroud fits. He's 6'3", in between 215, 220 pounds. The only concern people had with him was, would he be able to make off-platform throws when things break down, when there's pressure up the middle? Can he make plays? Well, versus Georgia in the college football playoffs, he showed that. Jalen Carter came unblocked. He was able to make a play, roll out to his right, find Marvin Harrison in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. And another play, protection breaks down, finds Marvin Harrison again. And then when the chips are on the table, game on the line, 30-yard scamper to put his team in field goal position to win that game. Now, I ultimately missed the field goal kick, but I think he answered a lot of questions about his mobility. To me, he's the best purest passer in this draft class. And as far as fundamentals, his footworks and mechanics are second to none out of all these draft quarterbacks. Now, I think Bryce Young, to me, is the most calmest guy in the pocket, but C.J. Stroud is the purest passer and has the best fundamentals. I believe he's the #1 pick for the Carolina Panthers.
Panthers are certainly putting pieces in place for him. DJ Chark signed to a 1-year deal today. NFL analyst Brady Quinn, Leger Douzable talking ball here with us on CBS Sports HQ. Latest episode of the Pick 6 podcast, also talking ball. They're doing future picks for the upcoming season. You can listen to Katie Mox, Will Brinson, and John Breach. Download and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.